Today we're back at the table saw and we're going to be talking about whether you should be using push sticks or push blocks to complete your cut. Hi everybody, I'm Jim Dierdorf and this is Detroit DIY. Let's get started. First off, I want to say that the push sticks that come with your table saw, they're composite or plastic or some material like that. These types of push sticks, you do not want to let the blade nick them or touch them. They can shatter, or worse yet, it will just eject it, which is it's kind of scary. And not only that, but then you lose control of your workpiece, and you don't want to have that happen. So if you're going to use the plastic or composite push stick that came with your table saw, always make sure you have adequate room between your fence and the blade for whatever strip of wood that you're cutting before you push it through with this. If you don't, then you need to either buy a thinner push stick or make your own out of wood. This is basically just a duplicate of what this one is that I made out of wood, so that if the blade grazes it, it's just going to trim a little bit off of it. It is not going to shatter it, blow it to pieces, and stick chunks of plastic all over in me. One would think that for cutting these thinner strips of wood that a push stick would be the way to go. But that's not always the case. And especially if you're a beginner. The push stick does just that. It pushes the material through. You do not have a ton of control with this push stick other than pushing it through. But with a push block, you can hold your material down as you push it through, and that is always a good thing with these thinner strips. And Microjig sells the gripper, which is adjustable so that you can get your blade to clear through passages on it. If you make your own like I do, you can just let your blade graze through it. I've got it marked out here where I don't want my blade to be because I've got a couple of screws here. So it's all on how you feel using your saw. If you want to cut thin strips and you want to be safe, use a push block, not a push stick. Let's cut this. I've got my blade set where I would want it to be, cutting this into a thin strip. I've got my riving knife adjusted in my saw so that it is slightly lower than my blade. If my blade's going to cut a little groove in my push block, then it's going to clear my riving knife as well. Everything will just feed through like I want it to. Now with everything ready to go, we are going to make this cut with the push block. And like I say, if you're a beginner or even if you're a novice, cutting thin strips can be the most dangerous thing you can do on the table saw. You always want to make sure you're standing off center of the blade. So whether I'm on the left or I'm on the right. I prefer to be on the left, but if I'm doing dados and other things, sometimes I prefer to be on the right. So it just is your preference, but you can see better over here on the left. Never stand in front of your saw like this to make a cut, because if anything does happen, it's coming right at you. Now as you can see, I've started this with my hand. I've got plenty of material here to start it with my hands. Now at this point in time, I could go a little bit further, but I want to go ahead now and bring my push block into play and get that ready to go. My push block, I've glued this little stub right on the end of it to catch the edge of the wood so that I have something to push it with without it slipping. I'm going to back this up a little bit. And away we go. We wait for the blade to stop spinning, And here we have it. We have successfully cut a thin strip without any danger of kickback or ejection from the saw. So like I say, for a beginner, this is the way to go. As you can see, we've cut just a little groove in the push block itself, and especially if we're repeating this cut, it's going to follow that same groove every time. The other nice thing with the push block is when you're cutting with it, it has the ability to help hold down pressure on the wood. With the push stick, you don't have that. And this can have the ability to lift up. The back of the blade, rubbing on it is attempting to lift it up, and you have no control that way. So this is kind of what makes you feel most comfortable. This same cut can be done with the push stick. In fact, we're going to do that right now. But I just want you to know that you have more control with this cut with the push block. Let's cut it with the push stick. Now, as you noticed, I kept my hand on here a little bit further along to give that added downward support. This is where some people don't really feel comfortable doing that. I've been doing this for a long time, and I kind of sort of know where I can and can't. I'm not saying this table saw never got me, because it has got me once, but I knew where I went wrong when that happened. And it wasn't because I was holding down on the board over here. Also, I just want to add, I talked about this briefly last week. We do not want to try and rip through a knot like that, because this knot is degraded and could very easily become loose in the wood and cause a kickback if that starts dancing around. As you can see, we got the very corner of it right here. It is still attached halfway decent in here, but it's not something that I would try to rip through the middle of this. In some cases, you may use two push sticks. If you don't want to have your hand right here, like I did, you can use a push stick to hold this material down while you're pushing it through with your other push stick, so that you have that control, the ability to hold this piece of wood down. I can't stress enough how important it is to make sure that you're not just pushing this through with the push stick and you don't have any downward control on the wood as it's going through. You have to have that downward control. Alright guys, I'm just trying to keep you safe while you're using your table saw. So whether you choose push sticks or a push block, that's totally up to you. But this block is going to give you way more control and make a beginner especially feel way more confident in what they're doing with the saw. And like I say, whether you make your own or you buy one from Microjig or just go to Amazon and search push block, I'm going to put some down in the description of this video along with some push sticks, and this will make your cutting much safer if you utilize these tools correctly. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would greatly appreciate it if you would consider doing so. If you enjoyed yourself, click on one of those two videos that are going to pop up next to me. And remember to always respect the power of your power tools. We'll see you soon.